Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So I'm just dropping a quick one. So tonight I had an experience, and basically, why is it that a black person cannot have an opinion on any other race without being called a racist? When other races can say so many things about black people, African Americans, and whoever, and nobody ever calls them out for being racist. So tonight's issues stem from the Kilmer Abrego Garcia situation, with him coming back, and the American government is now going to be trying to deport him to an African nation, a small place called Eswatini. I've never heard of Eswatini. I've heard of many places in Africa, South Africa, the Congo, Soweto, Egypt, whatever, Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea, all kind of places like that. But I've never heard of Eswatini. Maybe a lot of us have not, but that's his current situation he's being threatened with. And I just simply say that I don't care, you know what I mean? Well, and for my thought is, a lot of people from below the lower two borders really do not prefer African Americans, Africans, or whatever. And a lot of it is racism. I've lived in Mexico. I've worked down there over a decade ago. I lived down amongst the lower border, Merida, um, Playa del Carmen, Cancun, Tierra Maya, places like that. And I wasn't always treated the friendliest. And I do realize that is because of like things dealing with the caste system, which started in slavery with the Spaniards and things like that. So their whole outlook on anything darker, blacker than them is they're better, and the darker the person is, they're lower than them. So I've kind of experienced that with them. I have neighbors across the street who are Guatemalans. They're not friendly at all. When you see them out, you say hi to them and they just look at you like this. Or if there's a whole bunch of them out there, when they see you, they'll stop everything they're doing and just stare at you, watch you get out of your car and go up into your house or whatever. And you can just kind of feel them all staring at you, and you hear them laughing and talking behind you as you go in. So I realized that, the things between us as American Africans and Latinos is not friendly. Sometimes it can be, but most times it's not. A lot of friction between blacks and Latinos in California, sometimes in Texas. So when it comes to this whole immigration situation, there really is not uh, recently in time, and you see other YouTubers and videos of black people saying this is not our fight, stay out of it, that's on them, and things like that. Originally, I didn't take to it. I just really don't get into stuff because it's kind of like not my thing. I get up, go to work, pay my bills, and move on. But because I've had these experiences, I feel the same thing too. So today, whenever I saw what they're doing with Kilmer Abrego Garcia, it made me laugh. And I just simply said, well, maybe it'll, enlighten him and his people, when they see how, well, he's gonna probably, maybe, hopefully be accepted by African races, or how he gets along. Maybe that'll bridge a gap, you know what I mean? And I really don't care what's going on with his situation, because it ain't me, and their people don't care for me or my people. um Anything that looks like me, they don't like us dark people or us nappy hair people. They really don't care for us at all. There's a lot of racism on their part. I've watched countless videos of Mexicans saying how if a Mexican procreates with a black American, they are disowned and mistreated by their family and things like that. So when it comes to me and this whole Kilmer Abrego Garcia situation, I don't really care. I don't allow myself to care for the whole ICE immigration situation. That doesn't pertain to me, because these people do not want a real and true black brown coalition. And it has been stated multiple times. Just go look it up for yourself. Um, a lot of them do not want that. When they come here, they assimilate to the white populace. And that's their right. They're allowed when they come here rightfully, through the whole system of immigration. They get here, they get their green cards, or they get whatever they get citizenship. They're allowed to do that. That is their right. There's no problem with that. But when things like this go wrong, we as Black people don't need to care. So in conversation tonight, I got blew up on because I said I do not care. As many NGGERs and things like that, they have called us and how they feel about us. Some of them, not all, but a vast majority. Why should I care? Because it was funny to me. I'm like, dang, they done brought homeboy back. Now they threatening with Africa. I mean, damn, you couldn't just send him back to South America or Mexico where at least he's, you know, in proximity to his own kind or whatever, he'd be comfortable or whatever. Y'all going to just send him straight to Africa? Like, damn, they took him back to straight the original start. But Latinos, Mexicans, Spanish people and them, they have African blood and they don't want to admit it, but it's true. As everybody does, we are our people or Africans. I'm not the deepest African. I'm an American African. So, but the pure African is the originator and start of creation, of life. So you wouldn't really be here if it wasn't for that. And they would not acknowledge that. So in most times, if you would ask them if they're Black, they'll tell you, I'm not Black, whether it's Dominican Republic, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, El Salvadorans, San Salvadorans, Argentinians, Belizeans, the list goes on. Nicaraguans, Guatemalans. Ask them and they will tell you, I'm not Black. A lot of them will not claim it, even though they have Afro Latinos who live amongst them. Some will admit it, but the vast majority will not. So when it comes to a situation like this and you say you don't care, so why is it that a white person takes it amongst themselves to call you as a Black person racist? Why do you not have to be the racist? Because you just simply said what it is. Well, okay. Now you're going to actually get to see what it feels like to be in a nation surrounded by people who aren't you and go through whatever we've had to go through. You may not, you don't know. Maybe they might accept them with open arms. And I actually suspect that they will, but his situation, I could care less. You know what I mean? Because as far as they're concerned, I'm just an NGGER to them, like I am to a lot of racist white people amongst and around America. So their situation is not my situation. And I've watched countless of videos where they're saying, hey, Black man, this is coming for you next. It's going to happen to you next. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't really worry about all of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not concerned about any of that. I don't really care about any of that. You know what I'm saying? If it happened, when it happened, we'll deal with it. But for now, that's your situation, your fight. You don't have anything to do with us, so why should we care? So I won't let a white person guilt me into caring. And if I'm a racist because I don't care, then I'm going to be that, because I'm not going to change my opinion of how I feel, because if the shoe was on the other foot, you wouldn't call another white person racist for spewing fucked up stuff towards me as a Black person. You wouldn't call him a racist. You would just try to calm down the scene. You would just say, hey, okay, everybody, let's break it up, whatever. You wouldn't say, hey, man, you're a racist for saying that about her, or you don't care, this and that, or how they're treating them. You would never do that. So I don't feel like I need to feel any type of way for my opinion. I don't care. It doesn't pertain to me. It's not my situation. You know what I'm saying? It's not happening to me or any of my loved ones. So it is what it is. And hopefully they're good to him. If he has to go to Eswatini, hopefully they're good to him. But why would you feel like you're going to be further persecuted, or whatever word he used, or attacked or whatever, in any other of the 20 nations that he claimed he didn't feel safe going to, whether it was Nigeria or whatever? Why would you feel unsafe there? You're still going there and you're still going to be amongst your people because you have origins in Africa, like we all do. We all do. But you were raised to deny it, and now it's going to hit you as a fact if you have to go there and face it. So you're just going to have to jump in line and assimilate to being around that type of lifestyle, because that will be his situation. So for all the racism that they spew to us. I don't feel any way when they end up being deported to an African nation. Why would I care? I think maybe you would get to know the other side of your origins, and that might kill some of that racism. You might learn some things that'll make you change the way you see your darker side or darker people in the world. Whenever it's proven that we're not as bad, or our people over there are not as bad as what you were told when you came here and you were living and assimilating to be white or close to white, and now they're putting you out too. So yeah, when it comes to that, I don't feel like, I kind of feel like, listen, you call me whatever you want. If my opinion is harsh, then I guess I'll have to be a racist then, because it is what it is. Why is it that a black person cannot say anything that is not in the favor of certain people, but when a white person or anybody else of another nation says something that's against our kind, they're not racist, or people love it, they agree with it, they're right along with it. But when a black person says, I don't care what happens to them people, who care? Now all of a sudden you're the racist. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So, and also, you'll hear some people say, well, black people really can't be racist. Well, I'm not sure about that. I do know there's a power to racism, and black people, we don't hold that power. Our racism doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop you from having a job. It doesn't stop you from moving into a neighborhood. It doesn't stop you from going to certain places in the world. But white racism does. So when I got called racist, I just laughed, and I'm gonna keep laughing. So it is just what it is. But yeah, I don't really feel any type of way for the whole immigration situation. It's not just happening to people from below the two borders right there. It's happening to a lot of people from nations who came here from all around the world, and some of them are black. And yeah, I mean, I don't feel no way about that neither, because there's also Africans who say the African American is an akata. They're a wild animal, and they're nothing because they were slaves and they didn't fight back, and they were lesser, and they were this and they were that. So when they come in, or they get there, they get here and they say, oh, we're taking advantage of the education system, and all the African Americans, they're not doing nothing with themselves. They're just sitting around in the streets and being drunks, and doing this and doing that, and getting into crime, and they don't want to be doctors and lawyers and stuff like that. And when we come here, we're this. Listen, if it wasn't for our people back in the day up on a civil rights role, you wouldn't even be allowed to come here even as that. So when it comes to them too, I have nothing to care about. If that happens to you, that happens to you. My fight, my care is the ones who pertain to me, my loved ones, my family. If I got a family member who's going through that type of stuff, I'm fighting for them as the individual. But as a whole, I don't care what happened to nobody else. If it ain't affecting me, I do not care what happened to nobody else but my own. And I only have a few people who I really, really love and care about that I will go to bat for, and whatever. So, no, I'm not a racist, but if you want to label me one, then I'll be that. So, why is it that black people cannot have an opinion about any other race, but every other race can have an opinion about us? Why? Just got to question that one.